The SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi, and welcome to a special episode on SM Media. I wouldn't say it's a breaking news pod because just due to timing, we are about 24 hours behind the news, but we have been not front and centre, but we have been keeping up with it. Do you know what I mean? We have been on social media. That is, of course, the news that Russell Martin has been sacked as Rangers manager. Myself and my Rangers colleague Scott thought we'd get together and give an overall assessment of the news that has come out. For those who maybe haven't listened to our Rangers assessment podcast over the past couple of months, I think we've been fairly consistent in our view, uninspired and consistent in how we've been feeling. And I think yesterday, mate, was the kind of culmination of. I think it went way too far, and I think it was. I wrote after the game on Twitter, and there has been a couple of people getting to me for this, for saying that I'm one for bravado and I can make big statements. That sometimes is a bit unfair. But one thing that I did say is that this is surely the end of the road for the most arrogant and embarrassing manager in Rangers history. Now, I am not saying that because I dislike Russell Martin the person. I don't know Russell Martin the person, but what has been presented as Rangers manager has been quite embarrassing. He hasn't. Results have been embarrassing, as we've seen, and this entitled arrogance that hasn't allowed him any sort of leeway with the support. And yesterday we saw the end of the road.
Yeah, I think it's been coming to me. For me, with Russell Martin, I started to get question. The first game I started to get question marks was actually Alloa.
Okay.
Because I thought conceding 2 goals at home to Alloa, holding on until Curtis scored in 90, I think it's the 88th minute or something like that, to beat Alloa, I thought this isn't working. And then 3 days later, it was the first leg against Bruges. And I think I texted you during the game. I've seen enough, sack him. And that was 20 minutes into the Bruges game. And I haven't been able to, none of my opinions have changed since that. If anything, it's sort of escalated from that 20 minutes against Bruges. And yet he hasn't done anything that. Well, no one really wanted him to get the job. Let's be honest. He was when it came out that he was getting the job. I think Romano was the first one to say that Russell was getting the job. It was such a sense of negativity around.
You mentioned uninspiring. That was the mood music at the time, because I remember very specifically sitting in my work and somebody coming over to me and saying Fabrizio's. There was whispers during the day, if you remember. I think there was a few people kind of whispering that this was going to be the kind of plan of action. So it was kind of coming. And then there was the Fabrizio thing, which at the time and still does mean that it's very much official. And I just remember there was a wee bit of a flatness about me because, and it wasn't for the fact that there's 3 different. I always thought there was 3 different reasons people didn't want him, and I kind of subscribed to being in one of them. And I can see. I'll let you guess where I was. You've heard it, so you'll maybe know, but you can clarify for the listeners. I think there was a weird amount of people who were not wanting him because of his time here as a player, which wasn't my train of thought, but I could see the angle.
No, it wasn't mine either.
I could see he was an ex-player, he wasn't a very good one, so therefore he'll be a crap ex-manager. There was also the thing of what I would kind of say was the one that everybody was going to will his way work in Scotland, because we know his system. And the third thing, and the one that I was very much leaning towards, and I know you're going to say it, did he learn enough from his time in England? Because we covered his team the season before. We covered his team last season for Southampton in the Premier League show that we do. And we were horrified at some of the things he was doing in the Premier League.
Yeah, I remember there was. I think when he got the job, they also said it was a very uninspiring, very flat. You said I think it's a good word to use as well. But I remember there was clips going about with it. I think folk were trying their best to jeer themselves, turn this into a positive thing, because they thought, right, you see,
it was very much he's here now. Let's just get behind him, because what else can you
he's
do?
here now. Let's back him.
Yeah.
And there was clips going around him on Monday Night Football after he got sacked for Jamie Carragher.
Yes.
And I remember a lot of things he said. There was like, "Oh, what would you change?" These are be a bit more street smart, bit more dirty fouls, bit more. Which I read this lot. Great. That's what we need. We need someone like that. Our team's been too nice for far too long.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't. We did see that to an extent with stupid yellow cards, but not. But that was the extent of it. There wasn't enough street smarts in terms of using the ball while we were playing as well. And yet, from the first day, I think Rangers kind of knew. I think Rangers as a sort of media department very clever in the way they done it, because there was a lot of interviews where Russell Martin came out on Rangers TV, and I think he's obviously a very persuasive guy, because he managed to get the job in the first place. He managed to fail upwards from every job he's been at. And if you listen to all the players in the transfer window, they all spoke about how well Russell Martin sold them the project. So he's obviously a very persuasive guy. And you kind of saw that with the Rangers TV interviews and stuff and the pressers before the games, before we started playing.
Yeah, I mean,
he spoke well and that kind of thing, but then it kind of just, that Bruges friendly booed off at half time and never really recovered.
well, I was at that Bruges game, and I remember very specifically saying to who I was with, I can sort of see something, but again, Leon King and Robin Proper were at centre back, so I was like, don't read anything into this, but all I wanted to see was signs. And that was very much where I was at, and I have always been, maybe with the exception of Bill, who maybe kind of, there's maybe a theme developing here for me. I was always very, get behind the manager. The manager's here. They deserve the time, as long as you show something, right? I just never liked the way Bill went about the job, the way he got it to begin with. I was always kind of like, that's a bit of a red flag to me, and I never really came off that train of thought with Bill. I didn't. I was very hesitant about Martin for the simple reason that I didn't think he would get the road that maybe an Ancelotti would. I always go back to what we spoke about before the season. I think Jack, maybe from Avril Saturday, was on with us, and we'd said if it's going to be Ancelotti or Martin, Ancelotti will automatically get more time just because this is his first. That's what it'll be. The Gerrard thing will automatically just, they'll give him a bit more time. The fans will get behind him. But there was also something in the back of your mind going, if Russell Martin shows something immediately, even if some of the results are poor, and there's a stepping stone towards a better future, I think the fans will be able to ride the storm a bit. And mate, we'll go back to it. The Pilsen game aside, there was nothing. Take away the results. There's nothing there to say that this was going to get any better performance-wise, because it was actually getting worse and worse. And we'll go through it, but there was never any point where you felt, let's just ride the storm here because we'll get to a better stage. There was never that for me.
No. Like, I remember, me and my mate were speaking about this at work last night. And I mentioned, I sort of thought this as I was talking to him. The Panathinaikos game, and the Falkirk game, there was no difference.
Yeah, right.
And that's his first game in the 20th of July, I think it was, the Panathinaikos game. And yesterday, 22nd of July, Panathinaikos. And yesterday was the 5th of October. And there was no difference.
The one thing I will say is I was almost accepting that there was going to be a high line. Rangers were going to concede a lot of chances, right? Because that's Russell Martin. And we'll get into Russell Martin's entire past and future, because I think that's quite an important thing to cover here, because I think it's very interesting, both parts of this in relation to how he got the job and what he's going to do after. But Rangers were leaking chances that Panathinaikos game. And the one thing that your stats guys and everybody that has a mind that not buys into what Russell Martin buys into, but the stats guys, your XG guys, all those guys did have some sort of opinion on Russell Martin was might create chances, no, might leak chances, but will create an awful lot. mate, is that
one of those happened and one of those didn't.
Yeah, and you could have one with the other, right? If Rangers were leaking chances and scoring goals, I think again the fans would have been a bit more right. Okay, this is how it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? You can win games. Sort of what Liverpool are doing now, which is create chances and leak chances, right? I think you can get away with it. The problem is though when you leak chances the way Rangers have, and the creativity is just non-existent, and it has been. And there's a lot we can get into here, but that was the problem.
Here's some stats for you,
okay.
Right? Rangers have created 13 chances this season. 13 big chances this season, sorry. The only teams who have created less are Aberdeen.
That's in the league.
Who scored. Yeah, this is in the league. This is just the league. Aberdeen, who didn't score a goal until yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Livy, who we all know will probably near the bottom of the league. St Mirren, who we all know, to be fair, they're kind of the opposite of what we thought we were getting from Russell Martin. St Mirren don't create chances, but they're going to be solid at the back.
Yeah.
And Dundee, who have Stephen Presley in charge.
Right. Well, that does tell you something because, again, Rangers... One of the comments that stood out to me yesterday's post-match was we can win, but we need to find a way to win. I'm not totally in disagreement with what he said, right? Because I can sort of see what he's meaning. You need what Russell Martin was brought in to do was to change the culture, and that meant win and win with style, right? There was no style in that philosophy because that philosophy just was non-existent. Okay, but I do think Rangers can win in an entertaining way. I just don't think Russell Martin, and this has been proven, Russell Martin was not going to be able to do that for two reasons. The fans were never going to allow him the time probably needed to do that. And him himself was just in the mode now of just throwing. He didn't stick to anything. He didn't stick. Nothing stuck. Nothing stuck. He changed the midfield, the front line, what he was doing. Gassama kind of stuck. Finlay Curtis we'll get into, I'd imagine. Ant-Man and Moore, he doesn't really know what to do. He's switching to meeting Miovski. I don't get the back line yesterday, and I'm explaining this right. It was patently obvious when Rangers sold Jefty and Ridvan Yilmaz. Rangers needed another left back. He doesn't play Magoma yesterday, moves Cornelius to left back, brings in Suter and Giga, who together have shown they are not capable of being a partnership. Cornelius had a good game, but that isn't what the sacrifice. That was when I was like, he's not. He's kind of. That's why I felt yesterday that he was. If there was a bad result, I felt he would go because that was throwing everything out the window.
I didn't mind the back four to the point of I think he was running poor Magoma into the ground.
Yeah,
and he needed
but that's entire club
that
fault.
goes back to the transfer window more than the team selection.
Yeah.
There's no I didn't have an issue with Cornelius at left back, but the fact that Cornelius is our second choice left back is more of an issue.
Yeah.
Rather
and
than
he's also your best. He's also already your best defender by a mile.
Comfortably.
But you see where I'm getting at here, right? If you play, he doesn't have, and we'll get into the other things like the Igaman, Raskin, which is all stuff we need to talk about here because we're assessing Russell Martin's reign. It doesn't have the credibility for that to work because if Rangers don't win that game, the first thought will be, why did you change that?
Yeah.
Why did you not play your best midfielder against Celtic? Why did you not play? Why are you not playing Oliver Ant-Man over Mikey Moore when it's patently obvious that Mikey Moore is out of confidence at 18 years old? You mentioned about Magoma being run into the ground. Mikey Moore's confidence is shot. He should not be playing football at the moment. You've got a guy not even in the squad that you spent £3.5 million on. Where's he in this? Do you know what I mean? Questions have to be asked about the whole thing, not just Martin, Thelwell, Patrick Stewart, Kavanagh, Marathi. We have to ask questions on them all. But the overwhelming question is, we are at the start of October, and for the fifth season running, we are changing manager.
Yep.
This is a deep, deep problem.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a bit less negative on specifically Thelwell. I think we can get on to Stewart. Because I actually think we might, if it depends on the managers, but obviously we will get into, because that's the next talking point, is who's going to take over. But I wouldn't be shocked if we get to May next year and we look back at that summer transfer window as pretty good. Because I actually think there's a lot of talent in this squad. A lot of talented footballers. But I just think they've all been coached horribly. I think they've been tactically used horribly. Positionally, they don't look fit. We don't look, as a team, as a collective, we don't look fit. See, if it's one or two players, that's an individual problem. But when your collective don't look fit, that's on the coaching staff. So I think whoever the new manager in needs to sort the fitness out, because that is
For many years have we been saying that though.
Aye, we haven't been fit since. We'll get into this guy. We haven't been fit since Gerrard. Because obviously you had the Gio stuff, you had the 120 against Braga, then 120 against Celtic, those 3 days. But that was off the back of a Gerrard pre-season, because Gio came in halfway through that season. And then the fitness levels just slowly, gradually went down. We went fit under Gio, but I think that was a European pre-season we had rather than a British pre-season. Beale, no. Clement put on the Gio bracket of European pre-season. To me, you have playing style, talent, all this kind of thing. If you're not fit, you're not going to do anything. To win anything, to do anything in football, fitness has to be top of the priority list.
Well, you would think in a modern day, though, with a modern approach, Martin would specialise in that. Now, I was always, and I think you know this by now, right? Because we've done this enough times to know that it takes me a lot to sack the manager, right? I'll get through this. Because Warburton, it was after that Hearts game where I just felt, I said, he's not cut out for this. Caixinha, it was progress. I just felt we would never recover from it. Gerrard, I was having wee doubts after the Hamilton defeat before the COVID season. But it was more, I hope you don't go. I have doubts that you think you can do this. It wasn't get rid of Gerrard because I saw the evolution. Gio was more the style. I just felt that style was not going to work in Scotland. Beale character was wrong. Clement, I think Clement and Gio were kind of shafted by circumstance, right? And what I mean by that was Gio's transfer window that he was blatantly shafted by didn't help him and wasn't able to get what he wanted to do across, right? Clement, circumstances were a bit symbolic. He didn't help himself, kind of thing. Russell Martin, I had to convince all those managers. I was like, I can see the even Bill. I could see the appointment. I could see why they were making that appointment. Russell Martin, I had to convince myself, and you know that because you'll have done it too. When you're at the stage of convincing yourself, when you begin to see what you've fought against for 2 months, when you begin to see that, it just comes back at you. The warning signs immediately hit you of, yeah, I was right. I've made a mistake here. I've made a mistake by getting behind this. You could see that. Even Motherwell, I just felt, yeah, this is just more of the same. I just don't feel Rangers have been. The one thing that Russell Martin had going for him was, I thought he could make us entertaining. And see, within a couple of games, the Motherwell game, I think Poulsen away. Do you remember that? Where Rangers had just had their backs to the wall, and I just felt, I said, this is more of the same. And my worry has always been, do Rangers just make good managers bad? Because I don't think Clement was a bad manager. I don't think Gio was a bad manager. Martin, I've got my doubts, and I'm even more now. I'm like, Martin isn't a good football manager. But is it Rangers that's the issue? But then you look at Gerrard and thought, Gerrard brought an entertainment. And you look at those guys, right? And again, people have made a big meal about this. People confronting Thelwell and Stewart at the hotel. They're paying thousands of pounds every week. or not £1,000 every
Yeah.
week, but if you're going on European trips, it's a lot of money, and you're paying your season ticket. You have a right to vent your frustration. Now, there's ways of doing it, and there's ways of not doing it, as we'll get into. But those fans are right. This has been going on far too long. Rangers are a chore to watch.
When we got the new owners, we all thought, right, new start.
New start.
We thought, right, there's a ceiling with the Parks. I think the ceiling with the Parks was one league title. We cracked that ceiling. We hit that ceiling. That's fine. Right. Well done. Done your job. Out the door you go. Get the new guys in. Russell Martin. And that we were all so excited when we got that note. When there was January, February time, the rumours started coming out for the new owners, and then it sort of snowballed.
Just after Christmas.
Yeah, it was more like when. No, it was more like when and not if type thing. And then we all got notification. Owners to the class, and then they appoint Russell Martin, and that just fell flat on the rest of the support.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think to be fair to them, there's one thing Russell Martin can't argue with at all, which previous managers could have. He was backed.
Back to hell.
Financially. Yeah.
He was given way more time than the rest would have, because the other the previous board would have jumped. I would say maybe after Bruges. I think they would have listened
after Hearts. I think after
Hearts. Hearts definitely. Bruges was the turning point for a lot of people.
I don't think they would have sacked him. I think what would have saved him under the previous board was they wouldn't have given an interim manager the Celtic game.
Yeah, but I think they would have made the call after the Celtic game. I think they would have given him the Celtic game and then made the decision regardless, unless it was a thumping victory, because they saw. And again, nobody's been more vocal about how the old board ran out of road more than I have. But they did have, probably to their fault to a degree, they did have an eye on the support. Okay? These new guys already strike me as, not that we don't care, we know more than they do. It's Rangers Football Club, the fans, it's the one of the very few clubs in world football where the fans do know what they're talking. The fans have been to the bottom of the barrel. They have seen the bad stuff. This is, football-wise, as bad as I've ever seen it in terms of the fan base, because the fan base,
it's the most toxic I've seen.
Visceral on how bad.
I was at that Livy game, and I've only ever seen a football club score 94th minute winner, and then 20 seconds later they're chanting for the manager to get sacked.
But that again that's not just the fact that they want Martin gone. That's a message of no matter what happens, we do not want this guy. You need to listen to us. We know more than you. Now, fans don't know everything, but at Rangers, you can't just completely just isolate them, which is what I felt. Maybe not on purpose, but I just felt as if that's what they're doing by ignoring the obvious. They were isolating the fans.
Yeah,
and it was going to get worse, and that's why I feel I don't think they've restored credibility, right? Because there's still major questions, but they've at least come to the decision eventually.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I was speaking to my mate at work again last night, and he said, "Oh, are you happy?" I was like, "I'm a month and a half too late, but at least it's done now." And to me, I think we need some form of interview or statement or video from either Thelwell or Stewart. Because Thelwell done one after the window. Fair enough, I thought it was pretty good. A couple of things I've got question marks over what he said. But I think we need communication right now of why you didn't sack him before, what led to this decision, and what now. I think we'll get into what now soon in this pod. But I think it'll be Thelwell because he's the kind of face of the football side of things.
Okay, I agree. However, this is, again, it's not just the Russell Martin thing that is making the fan base worried. It's the hiring of his son, right? Which I don't care if Rangers had won their first 7 games.
It hasn't actually become official yet. So I don't
it hasn't become official, but the right people are putting it out, so there's definitely something in it. I don't care if Rangers won their first 7 games, that would not have went down well.
No, it wouldn't have.
No matter what happened on the park, that would have been seen the wrong way. And again, the hiring of the interim CEO apparently was involved in the Manchester. It was quite highly involved in the Manchester thing. Which, again, it's like reading the room. Not a lot of people probably know that, but that stuff that was going about, I don't know if it is true, but like it's things like that make you wonder if I'm not totally against the new guys having their own mindset and going down, not listening to the support completely, but you have to take into account how things are going to go down. We've seen in the other side of the city, they're just blatantly ignoring their side, and they're winning games, they're winning trophies, and you've seen how bad that is. Rangers are a losing football club and have been a losing football club for a long, long time. Rangers are losing on the park and then making worrying decisions off the park with a new regime. It doesn't restore that credibility. It doesn't keep that credibility. The board had the credibility just by being new, and I think they've bit through a lot of that already.
Yeah, there's the feeling between getting that notification of takeover done and the feeling now towards Kavanagh especially. He's the kind of face of the American ownership. It's night and day. And I think this managerial appointment has to be. We've said this for years, but they have to get this one right because, as you said, the negativity towards Stewart, Thirlwell, and Kavanagh right now is massive. So if they don't get this right, if they go down a route that fans won't be happy with, then it's going to get worse. The protests won't stop.
I think Thirlwell can ride the storm because he's a bit newer, and clearly there's a long-term plan. They're not hiring his son if there's not a long-term plan. Stewart's the one I want to touch on just briefly because he was there for 5 months before the new guys came in.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's not inserted himself well with the support before this.
Even in that video, the hotel, he didn't come across. Thirlwell, to be fair, I thought Thirlwell came across a hell of a lot better than Stewart did.
You remember the infamous thing with the tifo, which again people can agree or disagree with, but that's just not the right thing to do at this point when you're just trying to initiate yourself with a new fan base. We mentioned who's next. I want to just touch on Russell Martin briefly because although I've called him arrogant and embarrassing, and I think I've been pretty brutal on him in the pod, as we probably both have, I don't want this to come across that we dislike him personally. We just dislike the job he done at Rangers and thought he was way out of his depth. What I will say though is that I think he did not help himself in terms of the buzzwords, the trying to come across as the intelligent guy to a fan base. I always felt with Russell Martin as he was trying to explain things. And do you know when you'll have worked with people like this, and I'll have been the same. You work with people who think that they're way above where they actually are. And the way that they keep that mentality is just by trying to catch you out by saying buzzwords and trying to come across. That's what I think Martin did in the interview, right? 7 interviews. I can imagine Russell Martin saying all the right things. And I've been in interviews where people are getting hired. I see how people come across. And more importantly, I can see how the people hiring want people to come across. If you initiate yourself with those people, you have got a real chance of getting the job.
Yeah.
That's how I felt he got the job. But it certainly wasn't his track record as a manager that got him the job, I don't think, or a head coach. Because you can't look at his 3 jobs and think he's fit for Rangers. No. And I just don't know where he goes from here. Because I think people have found I think people have found out the mentality, the pet prodigy thing is just a bygone era. And he's seen now as a bit of a footnote of that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we'll ever. I think it'll be very, very unlikely you see somebody like Russell Martin go up to the Premier League and think he can do what he did.
No, but I think I know what. I've got an idea what job he gets next. Yesterday I watched. Before I watched the Rangers game, I watched the game. I thought, oh, Rangers going to be crap. I'll stick this game on a bit better.
Norwich.
Ipswich v Norwich. Liam Manning at Norwich is holding on by a sugary peg here. And I would not be shocked if Russell Martin's a Norwich manager by Christmas.
Is that a step? Is that, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a massive lower step, but is he going to get
such a figure at that club, and I think as a player, and I'm not sure the fans take to him, to be honest. I don't know much about Norwich
I don't think fans take to him, because I was reading a thing not long before he got the Rangers job, and it was a Swansea writer, and I actually spoke to this guy, and he said he's not the right guy if you want to win.
That's what we need to hear. But I think I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be shocked if he gets the Norwich job.
He is a perfect example of what I feel is wrong. What's wrong with football at the moment? He's a perfect embodiment of the newer stats-driven foot mob kind of thing. Of, do you remember the guy, the Man United women's manager, the Zone 13 bullshit? That kind of thing.
I love those interviews.
That's kind of where football was going. I think it is. I think we have seen now.
I think it's regressed slightly since that.
I think it's regressed a lot. Mate, I don't think people are hiring managers. Clubs are hiring managers now to implement a philosophy, and they stick to that philosophy. That's why I think the new manager debate's a bit more interesting, because I think there's 4 or 5 guys who are totally different from where Rangers have been in the first place. Martin was the wrong guy at the wrong time, and the wrong character, the wrong mindset, the wrong appointment. And I'm glad the board have finally realised that. Now, it took them way too long, but they've got there. It's what they do next that they will be judged on. They are allowed a mistake, right? I'm willing to forgive the mistake if they learn from it, because I don't think Martin will learn from this, by the way. I don't think Russell Martin, if he doesn't learn from Southampton, he's not going to learn from this. My worry is with Russell Martin is, and this is where I wanted to touch on the fans just quickly, I know how this will be put out from Martin's point of view. Now, what I will say, you can clearly see Martin was struggling mentally with the circumstances. And I totally understand why, right? And I totally would never come on here and lay into somebody for that, because it must have been a horrendous situation. If you're having to get a police escort out of a ground, that's not a good environment. That's not good for anybody. And hopefully it takes a bit of time. And I hope he does figure it out. I hope he does learn from his mistakes, because he's had 4 of them to go on and make something of himself in the game, right? Because he's clearly a bright guy. However, the fans were allowed to vent their frustration on this. The fans should not. It's when it gets to the stage of when it's becoming blocking the bus and things like that. If that's what's happened, I don't agree with that train of thought.
No.
But I don't disagree that the fans had to act. The fans had to make their point clear that they did not want this guy. They did not see anything going in the right direction, and a change had to be made. And I commend the fans for that.
No. Protest outside the stadium against Hibs didn't work. Tennis ball didn't work.
Nah, the tennis balls were
chanting for him to get sacked despite a last minute winner didn't work. So they thought, what are we going to do? I want to touch on that slightly, because I think there's been a lot of misreporting on what happened yesterday. The Rangers fans did not block Russell Martin from getting to his car, because Russell Martin's car was not at the stadium. They were blocking the team bus, and the police thought, we can't let him on the team bus because the fans will react when they see him, so we'll put Russell Martin in a car. They did not stop him getting to his car because his car wasn't at the ground. He got the videos before the game of Russell Martin getting off the team bus. Well, on that, they should. I can see. I'm kind of like you. I don't agree with what they did, but I can 100% see why they done it. And to an extent, it worked, because I don't know if that got.
I think the decision was made when he went up.
I think
he knew. I think he knew when he went up the tunnel he was going because
I think it was you that pointed this out.
My dad. I'll give my dad a shout out on here. My dad will be listening. My dad pointed this out to me. I had to rewind it and go and see it. My dad pointed out to me. He looks as if he says before he goes and sees John McGlynn, "It's over." Well, that's it. I think he says.
I think it was that's it. You said, but yeah. When you said that, I stuck it on to check, and that looks like it is what he says.
Because I was very much until then thinking they're not gonna do this. They're gonna keep this going.
I did it when I said
they're going to keep this going to save face for themselves because they don't want to be seen as the new owners who've sacked a manager and caved into fan pressure. But they got to. That being said, for the fifth time in 5 years, who's next? The words of Bill Goldberg. Who's next?
Shout to the four folk to get that reference.
There's a few names. I'm going entirely through Sky Bet's bet notes here.
I'm on Sky Bet right now, so.
And there's a clear favourite, and formerly of this parish, Steven Gerrard. I think every single manager we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk about 8 realistic ones, I would say, eight names who I think are fairly interesting for different reasons. But the one that I think will galvanise the fan base is Steven Gerrard.
That's my first.
That is not me saying that I am 100% convinced that Steven Gerrard is the right guy. But there's 2 reasons that I think Gerrard is the first choice for me at the moment. Not only does he know the club, he knows how to win at the club. Now, people have slated his cup record. I have in the past saying one trophy 9 wasn't good enough, but the one trophy was one that mattered. He was fantastic in Europe. He made Rangers a force in Europe, which is where I think Martin had ruled it out, because the one saving grace, no matter how bad it was domestically, was Europe. And Rangers, the past 2 European games were atrocious.
Even under Barry, under Clement,
even under Barry,
Beale,
even everything. Yeah, exactly. Gerrard is the one I always think of, was the one that made Rangers that presence in Europe. He built the team that would go on to get to a final. He made Rangers that force. He attracted players. He galvanised players. Do you know what I mean? I think there'll be a lot of players in that dressing room who'll get a lift if Steven Gerrard comes in, who maybe are a bit flat. Raskin, for one. I'm even looking at the likes of guys like Rosswell who are like Aarons, for example. Just, do you know what I mean? Guys who...
I look at the squad, I think the one player, more than anyone, will get a kick out of Steven Gerrard turn-ups, Mikey Moore.
That as well, yeah. There's also, there's a lot of Gassama. There's a lot of players in that team who I think can be part of a good Rangers team. Asgard as well. There's a lot of Rangers. There's a lot of players who I just feel Scouse not reaching. There's a lot of players in there that I feel can just get a tune. The one worry is though, is it going back the way? My answer to that is
I think you go back to go forward.
Nothing else has worked.
Yeah, resort to mean. It went at this point.
Nothing else has worked.
My thing with Gerrard. I'll use one word that Gerrard brings more than anyone on this list, apart from maybe one, but we'll get him. Gerrard brings standards, and that is what we've missed for so many years. Folk talk about what Russell Martin wore on the touchline. I didn't see much of an issue with it, because it's not. And I can see why. I can see your sort of older heads. I can see why they care about that. But to me, Russell Martin's winning. No one cares what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Pedro Caixinha was immaculate on the touchline, but look at that ended up. So to me, it doesn't. I can see why. I'm not going to discredit anyone who cares about this, who cares about what he wears. But I don't really care, if I'm honest. I think if you're winning, don't matter what you wear. But in saying that, when you look at Steven Gerrard on the touch, he looks like a manager. He just has this. He's got the intangibles that you need to be a Rangers manager. Like things. I think the more overused word in the year 2025 is aura. But Gerrard's got it. Gerrard's just got this aura. When he walks into the room, everyone looks at him and everyone listens.
Is there a worry though? The only thing jumping out to me is what's happened after.
Does that matter?
Yes, because is his mindset the same as it was? Is his mindset the same as it was when he was here the first time? Because his first time was clearly, I'm building my reputation as a manager. The second time, if he comes back, I'm rebuilding my. I think it's a very different thing.
I'm not
It's a
comparing
very
him
different
to
thing.
that. I'm going to say something, but I'm not comparing Gerrard to this man in any way, shape, or form. But Walter Smith bombed at Everton. So it
I
does
think he
to
was
me.
shafted at Everton. That's a debate for another day, but he was
But
shafted
you
at
can
Everton.
was Gerrard shafted at Villa? Because you look at
Maybe,
you
but
could argue that as well.
Walter Smith rebuilt his reputation at Scotland and went on to realise what he was missing the first time at Rangers was he couldn't win in Europe. International football changed his mindset there, and he was able to go on and build the team that went to Manchester. Gerrard's been to Villa, disappointed, and then been to Saudi, and by all reports, it didn't work out. Well, it didn't. We know it didn't, but
No, I think with
that's my
Gerrard
only
and
worry. Gerrard's still
Yeah.
top of my list. That's the wee bit of doubt in my mind. Are we getting
my
the same
my
Gerrard that
other thing
left?
with Gerrard is who comes with him.
No, I don't
I think me and you.
Beale
I
would
think
come.
me and you disagree in this. If I don't think Beale would, but if Beale did, I wouldn't complain. See with Beale, I'm like you. I think Beale was a very unlikable guy. He was far too arrogant for what his career had done.
He was a bit of a precursor to Martin. I don't think he's
Yeah.
as arrogant as Martin, but Martin didn't have
No.
what Beale had the first. Beale had the credibility with Gerrard. Martin didn't have that.
But see if Beale comes in, I don't need to see him or hear from him. I'm fine. Just don't do an interview. Don't do a presser. Just stay in the coaching staff and do nothing else. That's all you need to do. And
I do
also,
think he needs. I
Gary Mack
do
will
think
come with him.
I do think he needs a Beale figure with him to do the training ground stuff. Whether it is Beale, I don't know who. I don't know who it is. I didn't know who Michael Beale was before.
I think I've seen Jermaine Defoe's name getting cropped up, but he's in a coaching role at Spurs. I don't think he'd leave that. The other name I've seen come up to go with to Gerrard is Stephen Davis. I would not be against Stephen Davis turning up with Gerrard.
I don't think that's the kind of. I don't think that's the coaching guy. I think that's more.
I also think you need an experienced head with him. Don't let me Gary Mack staying with himself.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, but Beale.
I wouldn't mind Gary Mack.
I wouldn't be. I would be stunned if Beale came in. And again, the other thing was we'll say about a lot of these guys: do they fit what the 49ers want? Does Gerrard? Because it's a change. It's going to be a change. It's going to be a change.
One of the names that comes up.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a change because what they've done the first time hasn't worked and they have to pivot. Now, they don't have to pivot completely. I would still, if somebody comes in and says this is a long-term plan, I'm all for it. But you have to see the start. You have to see the foundations of that early on. We didn't see that with Martin.
No.
The next one is not a long-term plan. It's Sean Dyche. I don't see that.
No, I don't. I don't see it. The only thing that makes me think it could happen is a farewell and Everton connection. But to me, my issue with Sean Dyche, I don't know if I said this to you, I've said it to someone else. Sean Dyche is a very good manager for a very certain type of club.
Yes.
And that 100%. Certain type of club is not Glasgow Rangers.
I think character-wise, they do okay. It's just I just don't think, as you say, it's a very different thing to go from.
Sean Dyche has never had to win consistently, apart from the odd season of the Championship, where he got relegated by Burnley, whatever else. His job is to build a team to finish between 17th and 13th. That's not a scratch in the guy. He's very good at that. So fair play to him. He's got a great career with some great clubs on his CV. But to me, it's not that. He's not a Glasgow. He's not used to building a team that's going to consistently win league titles and consistently win trophies. To me, Sean Dyche is a no. I think one thing he would do, going the positive thing, he'd sort the backline out. Yeah. Because my God, we need the backline sorted out.
Yeah, but again, there's no longevity in that backline. Yeah, it's not going to last. The backline's not going to last. John Souttar seems undroppable, despite the fact that he's out of contract in the summer. There's no longevity there with that backline.
Right now, our back four next season is Manny Fernandez and Cornelius.
Yeah. And Nsiala.
He's option to buy, so if we take that up, I think that's it. Because Aaron's on loan, Tab's out of contract, Souttar's out of contract, Shigger's on loan, McGoma's on loan. Who's out on loan? Ben Davies, his contract up in the summer?
Yeah.
I know he's out on loan, but...
I want to touch on the next two here on this list now. Very different characters, I would say. Kevin Muscat and Danny Rowe. Kevin Muscat has been to the final two before with this job. My worry with that would be the best person the new guys can find is somebody who wasn't quite as good as Clement. But I can see he would bring in a track. He's clearly built something in China. Is that going to translate to Scotland? Danny Rowe's an interesting one because I've seen a lot of people say it would be going back to Russell Martin. I quite like Danny Rowe and how he came across. I'm not just hanging this off the way he came across in the Euro when he was a pundit at the Euros. I really liked how he came across about football. Now, that might be me going exactly against what the fan base want because I'm bigging up. I think if Danny Rowe was appointed in the summer, I think he would have got more leeway than Russell Martin because he's just a wee bit more likeable.
Yeah,
and there isn't that baggage.
I think
and he did okay. He did okay at Sheffield Wednesday. If it was between Muscat and Rowe, personally, I would go for Rowe. But I think it's more because I like the way he comes across. I just think Muscat, if you were going to do it a couple of years ago.
Danny Rowe's a no for me. I think I'd rather Muscat than Rowe, and that's pure. I'm kind of on the basis of what you read on Twitter. There's nothing Danny Rowe's done that factually tells me he's a better manager than Russell Martin.
No, I agree with that. But I do think he would get maybe not now. But I think if they went for that, Danny Rowe, it's clear that they have one approach, and they're not going off that. I don't think Danny Rowe at the moment is the right guy. But if it happened, I would be like, I could see why they're doing it. That's not me saying I'm for it.
I think when there's such a negativity with the rest of the fan base, Danny Rowe doesn't fix that.
No.
Whereas Muscat, Dyche, and Gerrard, I think, would have a lot more positivity from the fan base than Danny Rowe would. Danny Rowe might be a good manager in the future, but right now he's done nothing that tells me he's a better manager.
You kind of want to see him go and do it with a Leicester, do you know what I mean? West Ham, somewhere like that. Derek McInnes is a no-go. If I was Derek McInnes, I would not take the Rangers. I don't really think he will be in the running because I don't think Hearts will let him be. But I think his moment's passed for the Rangers job.
I think he's got a release clause like £2 million.
If I'm Derek McInnes, if I'm Derek McInnes, if I'm not taking it in 2018, I'm not taking it now. Or 2017, whenever it was.
I think you can see why folk want McInnes.
I can see it.
And this is just a me thing. This is just in my head. I cannot picture Derek McInnes listing a league title. I know that might sound incredibly stupid come May this year, but right now I just can't see it. Folk will bring up the Alec McLeish comparison, and I get it. But Alec McLeish came in to an already built Dick Advocaat team. He came in December. The league title was gone. He won a cup double with a Dick Advocaat team. And then he pushed on the next season and won the title.
He fixed the dressing room. He fixed the broken dressing room.
He fixed it, fair enough. But it was already had a lot of talent in that dressing room.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talent when he came in that December. And also we had Advocaat as his director of football for a bit. So he could lean off him if he wanted him.
Advocaat was his director of football. Right.
I don't know why that happened. That was a mess in the first place.
The next one, I'm not necessarily sure why he's here. Is it because he was in the TV studio yesterday? David Weir. I would much rather David Weir in a recruitment capacity than a manager.
If David was replacing Thelwell, then I'm up for it. But as a manager, no.
Right, the next one, I would be all for about 18 months. Rafa Benitez. Just get him in for 18 months.
When I said Gerrard would bring standards, and there's one other guy on the list, Rafa.
You brought something up in a previous podcast that I, at the time, was like, I'm not sure I agree with that. You said something very interesting that Rangers maybe did too much too soon. What Rangers maybe needed to do was bring somebody in like an experienced guy like a Benitez, an Allardyce, somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Not those types, but you know what I mean? Somebody with that mindset for 18 months to go on and build for the future. Do you know what I mean? The Van Gaal Giggs thing, which was probably the long-term plan for that. Benitez, at the moment, if you are just to steady the ship for 18 months, I would be all for it.
I'd love Rafa. Think of Rafa. I think there's very similar comparisons with the Rangers job right now, the Newcastle team he went into.
Yeah.
I think the fans would adore Rafa Benitez.
And he's 65. It's not like he's It's not like
I read
he's
he was going to.
done.
I read he was going to Greece. I read somewhere he was at Olympiacos or Panathinaikos or somewhere like that.
Yeah, he
Don't
could
think
be
it's
right.
happened, which is why he's on the list. But I think I'd love Rafa. I don't think it'll happen.
I don't
I
think
think
it'll
he's only
happen,
there
but
because his name came up in the summer. His name
yeah.
was the first name linked in the summer. When about March, so I read it Rafa. But I don't think it'll happen. But I'd love
Two,
Rafa Benitez.
two I wanted to touch on before. Well, three I wanted to touch on before we talk about the next guy on the kind of the short list. Is one that I'm very interested. Mark Van Bommel was. I always think though when it's coming out that somebody's interested in a job, it means that they're interested, but there's zero chance that they're anywhere close to it. Mark Van Bommel would get in there and put a few heads together. I just don't know if that. I just don't think that would. He was in
But
the
I've
running
heard, I've
apparently.
heard his name circulated, like, and he's the name that came up in the WhatsApp chats.
I think it's by him though, or by his connections. I think is the thing. So I don't think Van Bommel's a runner. Gary O'Neill.
No, 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 just no.
The
We
one,
need, when I said about Gerrard brings standards, personality, all those intangibles that I think a Rangers manager is crucial to have if it to be a success. Gary O'Neill is the negative of all of them. And
the
also,
one,
I don't think he's very good.
the one I would want if you could do it, but I don't. It's not an option. I would break the bank and get Knutson from Bodo Glimt. I would. That would be the one.
I saw his,
He
my
won't. He
issue with
won't go.
Knutson, that's kind of, he's been linked to every single job under the sun for about 5 years and he's never left. And when I see a manager like that, I just think, why are you still there? And why hasn't, what is putting off clubs coming in to get you
I don't think
right
it's that.
now?
I don't think it's the fact that clubs are put off. I think he is. He doesn't want to go. Now that I can admire that, but that would be the one for me. The one that I'm very much against because I think this would be another mistake would be Graham Potter.
No, jeez, no. He's another Gary O'Neill. And he's just
He's
like, he's a
not.
better version of Gary O'Neill.
We spoke a couple of weeks ago when we did with EPL show. Graham Potter is ideal if you're building a machine like a Brighton. Rangers aren't Brighton.
See if you came to me after his Chelsea stint and when you won Graham Potter, I would have went 100%
Yeah.
yes. Because I would have put his, I thought, crack manager, great job at Brighton. Chelsea's a bin fire. Not everyone would have failed if they went to Chelsea. I'm not putting that against them. So fair enough. And then he went at West Ham and they were pretty bad for the entire time essentially. Get apart for the odd game. They were pretty bad. So to me, Graham Potter's a no.
So closing statements, Your Honour. Bring back Gerrard.
Yeah. But I'm gonna, while we kind of just went through the list, but I'm gonna go through the list now, and I want just one word, yes or no, from you on
Okay.
10 managers here. Steven
Okay.
Gerrard.
Yeah.
Sean Dyche.
Is this what I want or what I think?
What you want?
Right. Okay. Sean Dyche. Maybe. I'm going to go for. I can see the angle. I think he would win games, but do I think it's a long term project? No.
Kevin Muscat.
No.
Danny Rowe.
This is the one where at the start of the season, yes. Now I'm not sure the fans would go for it. Probably not at the moment. Not the
Pep
right time.
McInnes.
No.
Davy Beer.
No.
Rafa Benitez.
Yes.
Graham Potter.
No.
This is the last name we didn't mention, but it's the last name I'm going to say. Marco Rose.
We didn't touch on him actually, but there's something off about his managerial run.
Yeah, there's something weird. I don't know what it is, but there's something not right with Marco Rose.
There is clearly something brilliant there if you can tune it.
And you see, I can't see Marco. This is another thing. Like, I can't. This is weird the way I'm going to say this, but I can't picture Marco Rose in an away dugout in Scotland. It's really weird. I don't know why, but I can't picture Marco Rose going up to Livy. Do you get me? I can't see him taking it.
I think we saw again at Leipzig. I think he did very well at Leipzig. He did actually he's probably his best job was probably Salzburg, which is a similar type of league.
Well, I think that's where these links have come from.
Similar type of pressure into it. Like the Red Bull thing would probably be similar. I don't know Austrian football as well as I know any other European leagues. Check out a European football show. We might do a wee bit in Austria. But I think Marco Rose is sort of what Rangers want in terms of a tactician. But as you say, would that be too much like Clement and Van Bronckhorst to work in Scotland? Would work in Europe?
I think he's got a better CV than Gio and Clement did.
I'm not sure because I think Clement at Club Bruges was
really but he also
he was bombed at Monaco, as did Rose at Dortmund, and he did okay at Leipzig.
Did we beat Rose? Was it Rose or manager we beat?
Beat Rose, yeah, when he was at Dortmund, yeah.
I'm really sure because his team were really bad.
But he did have Bellingham and Haaland. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I remember that team. I remember the team we played. That we beat them 4-2 over there. But my G, it could have been 6 or 7 that game.
Mate, I think before we wrap up, I just think again to make not an easy situation, right? Because it's not, because Rangers are a club in tatters. And absolute tatters, and they have been for a long, long time. I think you need to go back to what you knew for a while.
Yeah.
And just, again, there's a wee bit of worry about Gerrard. Is he the same manager? Has he learned? Has he kept the things that... I think what Gerrard did very well was, you saw when that squad won the league how together it was. You saw how together they were with him. But I'm also like, Gerrard's not here like he was the first time, where if you work this out, you can go and get a bigger job. Gerrard's here to, like Rodgers was the first time, he's here to restore his reputation. That's not always a bad thing. It's just,
no, I think,
is this the right time? Is this the right circumstance? Because it's a very different Rangers than the one Gerrard left.
Yeah, I don't think, we see everyone in this list, I don't think it's a perfect appointment, because if they were a perfect appointment, they wouldn't be on the Rangers shortlist.
There would be a clamour. There would be a clamour like there was when Celtic... Do you remember when Celtic were looking at Eddie Howe? Not one Celtic fan was against that. I spoke to, because they were like, he's did marvellous at Bournemouth, he could come up here and stroll it. And then they went and get Ange.
I don't think there's no perfect name for the Rangers job right now, because I don't think they would be in a job if they were a perfect candidate.
And it's also a very tough time to appoint a manager, because you're at that stage where certain teams are beginning to find their feet in their season, like Monaco for being a good example. Rangers don't need to have a manager with that name. All I'll say is that's just not going to work at the moment. Okay, so don't do that. But you saw in the past, Rangers have turned down guys like Farioli, Glasner. They've turned down the guys that would have worked. Do you know what I mean? Like
the Glasner one, I can see. To be honest, I can honestly see why they didn't appoint Glasner.
Yeah, but
because I'll say the hindsight's 2020. He's phenomenal manager at Palace, and that was that was not long after the Europa League final. And I don't know how a lot of fans would take to the fact that the guy who beat us in the Europa League final was now a manager.
What I'm saying though is though by that, there are good managers out there. There are good managers out there if you cast the net far and wide, and that's why I worried what they do here, because they didn't cast the net far and wide last time.
No,
they appointed the guy that bamboozled them to a degree with buzzwords and Zone 13. There's no way he didn't say Zone 13 in one of his 7 interviews, by the way.
Oh, no 100%.
But
that's my favourite interview. I watch that regularly.
What Rangers need right now, and it sounds very simple, is stability and somebody who'll galvanise the fan base. Because the fan base at the moment, while unanimous, is extremely fractured. Not fractured with each other, fractured, and just there's an apathy setting in.
You know,
Though there's an apathy that's there, but they need to restore that. They need to restore that fan base. They need to galvanise the players. The players were a disgrace on Sunday. I'm not getting away from that. But the players are going to be there till January at least. You need to get a tune out of them, and I think you need the right guy. And I think Gerrard's the guy.
you know what Rangers need? This is going to talk about simplicity. What you said. Rangers need a manager, not a coach.
Figurehead is more the. I think they do.
Yeah,
need a
but
figurehead.
yeah. So Gerrard, I think if I was to hang my hat on a name, I think it will be Gerrard, and I think it'll be Gerrard in the next few days.
Well, we will see, mate. I'm going to thank you very much for joining me for this special episode. If there's any news, we will be back. Okay, but we will be back as normal. Rangers assessment on after the United game, mate. Thank you very much. We will be back if there's a breaking news pod, which I'm hoping there will be in the next few
Always a
days.
pleasure. Aye.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll see you.